All right, Alexander, let's talk about what is happening in the United States and what is happening with President Biden. He is still president, with Kamala Harris, who is going to be running for president, and who is supporting Kamala Harris. Most of the Democrat Party has united behind Kamala Harris. Not They're not very enthusiastic about it, but it seems like they are uniting behind her. Soros seems to be uniting behind Kamala Harris. Clintons have endorsed Kamala Harris after there were reports that they were not endorsing Kamala Harris and they were supporting Biden. And we have the two big question marks. Pelosi, she hasn't endorsed Kamala, at least not at the time of this recording. And then we have the very big question mark, which is Obama. So let's discuss what is going on here.
Indeed, what is indeed going on here. Now, I think that Obama and Pelosi, and Obama especially, understand that Kamala Harris, has major problems going forward in terms of defeating Donald Trump or really holding back the Republican surge, which I think they all now fear is going to come. And I think we now need to come to the actual understanding of why what has happened with Biden has happened. Biden was not forced to step down because he is incapable or infirm or because he had a bad debate with Donald Trump. Biden was forced to step down because all of the opinion polling, apparently, and by some media reports, more opinion polling that appeared, private opinion polling that appeared on Sunday, showed that he would have been massively defeated by Donald Trump in November. It's everything that we've seen happen is about the November election. It is about stopping Donald Trump either winning the presidency or, if Donald Trump is nonetheless, in spite of everything, going to win the presidency, trying to prevent a rout of the Democratic Party in the congressional elections, which happen, as we know, together with the presidential elections this year. So it's these people, these people who've been pressing Biden to stand down, are not concerned about the fact that Biden isn't, all there. He hasn't been all there at any time in his presidency. He wasn't all there when they nominated him and backed him in 2020 when he won the election against Donald Trump. He's not all there when he makes all the decisions or appears to make the decisions about Ukraine, about the war, about the economy, about the general way in which the United States is run or the way it conducts its policies. It is because he looks at this moment in time a loser and a big loser. So they had to get rid of him because he's going to lose. He would have lost the election in November. The problem they now have is that having got rid of one loser, they're now left with someone who pretty much everybody within the political system and within the opinion polling system believes is another loser, who is Kamala Harris. Now, Kamala Harris is the vice president. She is the only person, realistically, that can take over from Biden. She was part of the Biden-Harris team. The president and the vice president. She would have been renominated as vice president at the convention, the coming Democratic Party convention in August, if Biden had continued to stand. With Biden now stepping down, she's the obvious and natural choice to take over from him, both as candidate and, by the way, as president. But all of them know that she's going to lose. So their underlying problem has not been solved. They're still going to lose in November. And the opinion polls suggest that with Kamala leading them, they're going to lose as badly in November as they might have done if they'd stuck with Joe Biden. So what do they do? Well, I think that Obama and Pelosi are trying to hold back from endorsing Kamala Harris because they hope that there will be an open contest and somebody rather more convincing, Grisham from Michigan or Pritzker from Illinois or Newsom from California will come forward. The problem is that it's becoming increasingly clear that none of those people is going to come forward. None of them wants to go into this election and lose to Donald Trump in November. So they're all coming out, all of these alternative candidates are coming out and endorsing Kamala Harris because, well, better Kamala Harris than them. That is their calculation. And the result is that though Obama and Pelosi and these people who were, to be clear, the arch plotters who orchestrated the coup that brought Biden down, know that Kamala Harris is not the ideal replacement for Biden. They are going to be left with her because there is no one else. And on the other side of the factional war, which there always is within the Democratic Party, the very fact that it was Obama who wanted to try to engineer Biden's removal made it inevitable that the rival faction, the Clinton faction, would want Biden to stay. Now that Biden has gone, that same faction, the Clintons, is now, of course, uniting behind Kamala Harris because, of course, that's their way of keeping Obama's influence over the Democratic Party at bay. So we have a factional war between the Clinton faction and the Obama faction. And we also have a fundamental problem with the election in November. But one way or the other, the important thing is that we're going to get Kamala Harris as the Democratic Party's nominee for the presidential election. And I don't think she's going to face a contest, but it's absolutely clear that the key figures in the Democratic Party, Obama, Pelosi, apparently Biden himself, all believe that she's going to lose and lose badly.
I agree with you on this assessment. I think, let me take it a step further and let me know what you think. Obama played his cards very well here. I believe that him not coming out and endorsing Kamala, even though many people believe, including myself, I believe you as well, believe that he was the person that was orchestrating everything that brought us to today. Even though he was the man behind the curtain, I believe it was a smart move to let everyone put their cards on the table, to get everyone to endorse Kamala Harris, to get the Clintons to endorse Kamala Harris. I believe Kamala Harris is part of the Obama, or is closer to the Obama circle than any other Democrat Party family or clan. I believe she's much closer to the Obama side of things. So he doesn't endorse anybody. He says he calls for party unity. The New York Times actually wrote an article about Obama not endorsing Kamala Harris, and they said that Obama is playing the part of the elder statesman. He doesn't want to put his thumb on the scale of democracy. He's calling for party unity. It doesn't mean he's not supportive of Kamala Harris, because some Republicans were saying that the fact that Obama has not endorsed Kamala Harris means that Obama doesn't support Kamala Harris. The New York Times immediately pushed back on that, and they said, no, it doesn't mean that Obama does not support Kamala Harris. On the contrary, he doesn't want to get in the way of the democratic process. He wants to rise above. And to me, this is classic Obama, isn't it? I mean, this is classic textbook Obama, how he operates.
Absolutely, he's being the manipulative, guileful intriguer that he always is. He always is there behind the curtain. I once called him President McCavity. Do you remember? There's this poem by T.S. Eliot about the evil cat, the criminal mastermind McCavity, who commits all these crimes. And the point about McCavity is he's never there, and that's exactly what Obama is. I mean, that's exactly how he functions. So there's a war in Syria, there's a coup in Ukraine, there's all sorts of things going wrong in the world. But, Obama is not really involved. He wasn't involved in the Libyan war. It was all Hillary. He always gets other people to do things, or at least to appear to do things, even whilst he's pulling all the strings in the background himself. And, of course, what he knows is that in November, Kamala Harris is going to crash. So then he'll be the person who's there to pick up the pieces and say, well, I'm the great elder statesman. I'm the person who can unite the party. I'm not directly implicated in this disaster. I didn't even publicly come out and tell Biden to go, by the way. I mean, we all know that he was involved and active in doing it, but he got others to do all the heavy work for him. George Clooney writing op-eds for the New York Times, all that kind of thing. So that is his way. He's going to sit back, let this thing play out, let Kamala Harris lose, because I think he knows perfectly well Kamala Harris is going to lose, and then he's going to step in November, pick up the pieces of what's left of the Democratic Party, and take it forward in the way that he wants to do, and perhaps isolating the Clintons in the process. It's, as you absolutely rightly say, classic Obama. Now, the thing to understand about the Kamala Harris-Biden team is that back in 2020, I mean, there was clearly a deal done. The Clintons at that time were backing Biden. They had some kind of long-standing connection with him. Obama was not so sure. So to balance the ticket, as they like to say in the US, Kamala Harris was brought in because she's more, as you correctly say, closer to Obama than she is to the Clintons. In fact, she's aligned with Obama more than she is with the Clintons. So that was really what that was all about. Now, as I said, Biden has been forced to step down. The Clintons didn't want him to step down, but Obama has engineered it. Kamala Harris takes over. She goes down in flames. Obama is untainted by the effect because he's not going to publicly endorse her. He's going to be the elder statesman who rises above everything. And then when it's all over, as I said, he's there to pick up the pieces. As a very general rule, as an iron rule of politics, I want to just say something. People who talk in that way, that they're going to be the elder statesman, that they're going to rise above the factional fighting, that they are always interested first and foremost in the interests of the party and all of that. They are the people you should be most careful of. They are the most treacherous, the most guileful, the most deceitful, the most manipulative. This is an iron rule of politics. Take it from me as a grizzled veteran of political struggles and bureaucratic struggles. People who present themselves in that way are absolutely not to be trusted.
And he got the Clintons to endorse Harris. Whatever deal they worked out, the Clinton clan and the Harris-Obama clan, doesn't matter. He got them to publicly endorse Harris. 24 hours after NBC said that the Clintons are endorsing Biden, they want Biden to stay, the Clintons come out and they endorse Harris. Obama played this very well. That's my sense of it. You may not like how Obama does his business, but in this instance, I think he played this very well, and I think it's just as you say. He can sit back, watch all of this unfold. If things go disastrously wrong for Kamala, he can say, "Look, I supported her. I didn't endorse her. I supported her. I supported Joe. I support the Democrat Party. I want the Democrat Party to be unified. Here I am to pick up the pieces and rebuild a new, more powerful, a better Democrat Party." So that comes to the question of Kamala Harris and what should the Democrats do going forward. Should they let Kamala Harris run? Should she become the president and run as an incumbent? And should her vice president pick be a person that is going to take on perhaps J.D. Vance in 2028? Should that be the game plan? Accept the loss in 24, but at least try to do something in Congress, try to get a win either in the House or the Senate, and position yourself going forward for 2028.
It's all very good questions. Firstly, I think that they will have to accept Kamala Harris as their candidate. And my own advice, if I was advising them now, is that forget all about these ideas of, sort of special primaries and all that kind of thing, which look like a fix anyway. The fact is that she's the vice president. She's had the endorsements as part of the Biden team. Just slot in. She's the obvious person to take over. You want to keep the disruption as limited as possible. It's already had very bad effect on the whole election process. The fact that you've had to dump your incumbent, your leader, just a few months before the election itself, I'd say just go for Kamala Harris. It can only be her. Don't make things any more complicated and disorganized and chaotic than they are already. And for heaven's sake, try to get everybody who matters to back Kamala before the convention, because the very last thing you want is a chaotic and disorganized convention, especially after the Republicans put up such a well-organized and such an effective and such a disciplined convention. So I think that they will need to unite behind Harris, and I think that's what they're going to do. The second thing they need to do, and they need to do this quickly, is they need to get Joe to step down from the presidency. He's clinging on to this, and this is very bad. It is constitutionally, or at least institutionally, anomalous. Already we see the Republicans coming out and saying what the Democrats are doing, running Harris, and at the same time keeping Biden in the presidency makes absolutely no sense. If he's not fit to be their candidate in November, then he's not fit to be president. I think they should get him to step down immediately. Otherwise, this issue is going to fester and it's going to grow. And there is another problem because Harris could then find herself in a situation which is almost unique in American politics, in which she is responsible for the increasingly eccentric decisions of a president who she is still tied to because she remains that president's vice president. So it's really, I mean, it's something that really doesn't work, and she should be pushing, and the Democrats should be pushing for Biden to go and to do this as quickly as possible, ideally before the convention. In fact, definitely before the convention. The longer they leave it, as I said, the more unpredictable and dangerous and politically toxic this whole situation potentially can become. And the third thing they need to do, obviously, is to find a vice president, a running mate for Kamala, and it has to be someone who can, be an effective challenger to J.D. Vance, not just in 2028, but now, because Kamala is probably not going to do terribly well, to say straightforwardly, against Trump in the debates which are coming, in pretty much anything. So you need to find someone who is up to the game of taking on J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance is a very, very strong debater indeed. You need to do that to try to hold things together in this election, because it's the vice presidential candidate that you're really going to rely on to do that. And you're also going to need to do that because, quite clearly, whoever is going to be picked as the vice president now is going to be their choice, their most likely choice for the presidency in 2028. In other words, they need to project a image of a party that is moving forward beyond this election, looking forward to the next election beyond this one, which is 2028, because this election, I think most people now accept, is all but lost. So I think this is what they need to do. Now, whether they'll be able to do that is another matter. Bear in mind that we've already talked about the factional battle taking place within the party. It's entirely plausible, for example, that with Kamala Harris now definitely certain to be the party's nominee, there's going to be a battle between the Clintons and the Obamaites as to who is going to be Kamala Harris's running mate. And of course, how does that play out? You've got all of these various names that people are coming up with: Newsom, Pritzker, Gretchen, whoever. Buttigieg, I've seen some people say. You've got to think this through very carefully, and I'm not sure that the Democrats have the ability to do so. This is already a car crash. It could become not just a car crash, but a pileup that's not managed well. And so far, the Democrats haven't managed things at all well.
Yeah. So let's wrap up the video and talk about the geopolitical situation, because this is a car crash for the Democrat Party. It's a car crash for the United States because you have, as you rightly said, you have a president who everyone now knows is not cognitively there to run the country, and you have his vice president as the candidate for 2024, and she's tied to the president, who cannot run the country. This is a completely bizarre situation. They have to get rid of Biden. They have to distance themselves from Biden right away. Memory hold Biden, get distance from Biden, and just tell the mainstream media not to talk about Joe Biden anymore. Don't talk about him. Forget about him. And that way they can create some distance and maybe position Kamala as the incumbent going up against Trump, and eventually, as you said, position the Democrat Party for something bigger and better in the future. Kamala Harris, if she doesn't win, just a quick thought. We talked about this in a video about a week ago. Even if she doesn't win, my sense is that she'll be okay with that. She'll have made history. First woman president of the United States, and she'll get all the perks of being an ex-president. So that brings us, and we talked about this in a video a week and a half ago. So that brings us to the geopolitical situation. They're looking at the United States there. I'm talking about all the countries in the world, the collective West, the European Union, China, Russia, India, Brazil. They're looking at the United States, and they have got to be saying, what is going on here? Who is running things? Who is in charge of the nukes? Who's in charge of the military? Who's in charge of foreign policy. There's a couple of wars that the U.S. is bogged down in. They're in a proxy war in Ukraine. They're effectively in a proxy war in the Middle East. They're ramping up a war against Iran. They're ramping up a war against China. What is going on is what I think many countries in the world are saying. The European Union is must be horrified at what they're seeing, because they bet it all. They bet their entire countries. They bet their entire economies. They bet it all on Joe Biden, and they even followed Biden into a proxy war against Russia. That's how much trust they had in Joe Biden, the European Union. Let's discuss the geopolitical situation.
Well, let's start with the Europeans. There's a fascinating article in today's Financial Times, and I'll just read the title of it. Isolated Germany fears a second Trump term. Isolated Germany. And the point is that, the European centre is disintegrating within Europe itself. And it talks about the fact that Germany's government is weak, that more and more countries within the European Union are becoming fractious and are rebelling against the policies that the EU centre, Ursula von der Leyen, backed by Germany, the current German government, have been following. France is in chaos. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who is the leader of the left and the man who wants to be prime minister, says that France should leave NATO. He's just made a statement to that effect, which is absolutely not what the Germans want to see France do, for obvious reasons. So there is a huge worry and uncertainty in Europe about the situation. And they will want Kamala Harris to take over because given how deeply committed they are to Project Ukraine, to the globalist project, to the neoliberal project, to all of these things, how nervous they are about the tariffs that Trump is talking about, and Vance is talking about. They want a strong Democratic Party. Ideally, they would want to see the current administration re-elected in some form in November. If they can't get that, they would prefer to see the party in a position where it is still strong after November, still has strong positions in Congress, can withstand or resist or delay parts of the Trump-Vance program. And above all, they don't want a weakened, enfeebled president now, somebody who not only lacks the cognitive abilities to run the United States, but who has no political authority to run the United States. Joe Biden is not a lame duck president. A lame duck president is a president who's in the last period of his term. Everybody knows that he's going to go. People can start to see who his successors might be. But he is still, in effect, the president. He's still in charge of his own administration. He might not be able to get things done through Congress, but he can still do the managerial administrative tasks that a president does. Joe Biden cannot do that, and he has no authority either. And the American political class has just passed a massive vote of no confidence in him. They've told him, you are so incapable, you cannot be president again. You cannot even think of standing for the presidency again. And yet this person is still president. So the Germans and the Europeans will also want him out. They will want somebody in the White House that they can work with over the next few months to try to, insulate themselves to the extent that they can from, the coming Trump presidency. And they will also want, as I said, a strong Democratic Party coming out of this process in November. So the Germans, once they've got themselves sorted out, and the Financial Times says that they're in absolute shock about what's happened, that they haven't really woken up until literally now to the way things are falling apart in Washington. But once they do, the Germans will want Biden to go, and they'll want Kamala Harris to take over. And where the Germans go, the rest of the EU will follow, and so will Britain, the Britain that now is, of course, led by Prime Minister Keir Starmer. So the Europeans also will want Biden to go, precisely for that reason. The rest of the world, it's completely different. If you're talking about the Russians, the Chinese, the Indians, the other ASEAN states, they are going to say to themselves, Democratic Party is a complete train wreck. They've just carried out a coup against their own leader, who they now recognise, something we've always known all along, obviously, is incapable and doesn't know how to run things. They're putting up in his place somebody who is widely seen as incompetent and a political lightweight, and who does not have the authority to run the United States either, and who looks like she's only going to become president as a result of the intrigues conducted by others, including by Barack Obama, who, by the way, most of us didn't like when he was president. Just saying, Obama was not popular with most of the world. Anyway, they will look at this and they will say, this is a political crisis in the United States. It's going to continue at least until November and perhaps beyond. We don't want a political crisis in the United States. We want a president we can work with, a president we can speak to over the phone, discuss things with, and who can agree or disagree with us and make decisions that we can understand and work with. And that will point to Donald Trump. So most of the world will want Donald Trump elected. They will not, I think, care too much about who is going to be president over the next few weeks, whether it's Biden or Harris, because they will see a chaotic, disorganized, and weak administration, whichever of those two people leads it. But their preference probably would still be Harris, because at least she is compos mentis in a way that we're being told and is now officially admitted. Joe Biden is not. So that, I think, sums up the view of most of the world.
Dangerous times. Okay, we will wrap the video up. Dangerous times. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up some limited edition merch. You will find a link in the description box down below. Take care.